Perfect. First and foremost, I want to thank everybody, Kowal for making this happen in the GCIF. And I know it's an afternoon. Everybody just had lunch in Las Vegas, right? So everybody's a little bit tired. You know, my children, we call it a food coma. You eat so much and then you just decide, I'm going to pass out, right? So throughout my travels as president of the National Association of Mortgage Brokers, met with members of Congress, flew out to DC rather often, helping influence positive legislation. And yes, there is such a thing as positive legislation when it comes to finance. But on top of that, also received recognition a few years ago from LinkedIn as one of the 5% most viewed in the world on LinkedIn. And so a really long, boring way of saying, I kind of know what I'm talking about. And I hope that those of you who are here today and those of you at home will pay attention, take some notes. And I'm probably going to be the only speaker today to ask why people aren't on their cell phones right now. Because at the end of the day, isn't that exactly what you should be doing? The people at home need to know exactly why you're here. They need to understand what you do. So by show of hands, how many people in here are in finance? Loan originators? Okay. Anybody here, real estate agents? Insurance agents? Okay, we've got a couple there in the middle. So get on your cell phones. Take pictures. Take video. Because if you aren't at the forefront of what your clients know what you're doing, then you cease to be relevant. And if you aren't relevant, then you'll go the way of the carriages and the candelabra. It'll be really cool for people in their nice homes, but as far as for the masses, where we all make our money, you'll cease to be relevant. And so for those of you here today, I applaud you. For those of you who are taking notes today, I encourage you to continue doing so because you are the individuals who will take over the industries you're in. The people who are not here, the people who are here only because they have to be, those are the individuals, once again, that will cease to remain relevant in this world. And those are the individuals that will be finding a new job within 5 years. Because as we're going to be talking about today, times, they are a-changing. So we're going to talk a little bit about trends impacting the future of banking, where the trends are driving our industry, and what the future looks like from here. We're going to talk a little bit about the brief history of banking services, a brief history of consumer demands, and a brief history of technology development. Now, I don't know about the rest of you, but banks right now, they are basically serving the same products and services that they have since the Great Depression, right? The main thing they're really excited about is, hey, we now communicate online. I went into a bank the other day, a very well-known, and I won't mention their name, and they were so excited because the tellers quit using Microsoft DOS. Anybody recognize a bank that just barely finished doing that, right? And I joked, I said, that's wonderful. Did you finally get on Windows 95? Okay, and they kind of sheepishly looked, but that's what banks do right now. They often use the phrase, I've always done it this way. My boss said we shouldn't change. Why? Because innovation is scary. They've always done it a certain way. Consumers are forced to do it that way. But as we found out, consumers' demands, they're changing. So if you look at the graph here to my right, you see that 251.6 million transactions are done mobile-based. 7 years ago in 2014, it was just right there in the mix, around that 45 million mark. So consumers, where are they flocking? They're flocking to their phones. They're flocking to their iPads, right? They want to be able to do their banking, whether they're on the beaches in Hawaii or they're sitting here today with you listening to me. They don't want to have to go into branches unless they want to. They don't have to talk with someone unless they choose to. Consumers are more educated about the process than they ever have been before in the history of banking. So, is technology keeping up with the consumers? A lot of banks will say, no, they haven't created that yet. And then they come to events like this and they realize, oh my heavens, that's 5 years old news? That was created 10 years ago? I was invited to speak at the World Real Estate Conference last week. Same location, Prism, thank you for putting that on. And as I went there, I was listening to a lady who did interior design. And she threw up on there the black and white. Everybody's seen those, right? The sketches as you go through, here's what your new home's going to look like or your new office. And then she says, but that's old news. Here's what I really like. And then she demonstrated a technology that's actually pretty old, that goes through and it looks as if the building's already built. You superimpose these 3D renderings that look as if the people are there, they're eating, they're enjoying, the cars are in the front, the grass is grown. There's an old proverb that says the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Who here knows the second best time? Today, right? If you go in and you study that, what's that really telling us? It's telling us that we need to make sure that we are constantly innovating to make sure that our future generations, our future employees, are able to take the benefit. Another one states that I'm sitting in the shade today because my ancestors planted a tree. So people are saying, we're good. We have all of the information, right? We don't need anything new. My great-great-grandfather founded this. Well, if they don't innovate, the fintech giants will. I'm sure all of you here today, you read the news, right? You're watching the news, you're on your phones, checking it out. And in there, what are you seeing? You're seeing lenders selling for massive amounts of money, billions of dollars. And then you look at another lender who just sold for more money and say, what is the difference? They both lend money. They're both equal, but one actually has a tech component. So they're a fintech, and they're worth more money because investors understand, just like all of you in this room, that the individuals who have harnessed the technology and are applying it towards finances, towards the consumer, those are the ones that are worth more money in the future. So if you look here with me, what do consumers care about? Now, I know a lot of graphs oftentimes are very boring, and people don't like to look at them, and I am the same exact way. If I don't like the graph, I'm not going to put it up here, okay? So we see that people between 18 and 25, the thing they're most worried about is saving more money. By the time they're around 45 years old, everybody's interests seem to overlap. And they want to spend less, they want to save more, they want to know how to manage debt. And then as they get older, in their 50s and 60s, it's all about protecting money and accounts. And so how do banks do that? They need to continue to respond, and they need to continue to make sure they stay relevant with technology and information and really deliver those methods to the consumers. Right now, we have technology that actually makes that easier than ever before. Years ago, who here knows, you may have heard of a small startup called Amazon. Anybody heard of that? Okay, nobody's answer. You heard of Amazon. Wonderful. Do you remember what Amazon started out selling at the very beginning? Before they sold everything? Books. And within 4 months, they had sold a book in every country in the world and were selling 40,000 books a month. But they started on one thing, books. Now you go on there, I can buy my dog food, I can buy lights, right? If I'm on vacation in Hawaii, I can change the address and put my hotel room number, and they can deliver to the door there. Amazon controls the consumer. What that has done is it's created an environment where consumers, they understand that they can get what they want, when they want, where they want. It really is that simple. Banks, lenders, individuals in finance need to understand that. They need to grasp it. And if they haven't started yet, they need to start today. It's not too late. But just like Amazon took everything over, there are other companies right now who understand exactly what this means. They understand exactly how to do it. And they're receiving the funding in order to make it happen. So are consumers ready for this? I would say yes. Robinhood, Webull, TradeStation, SoFi Interactive Trading, TD Ameritrade, Moomoo, M1 Finance, Tradier. Who here still uses a stockbroker? Right? Really think about that and let that set in. Oh, E-Trade. Okay, a travel agent. These were all supposed to be industries that were changing everything. A stockbroker would never go away. Who here knows an individual who's becoming an appraiser? Don't we use appraisers right now in finance? The table over there? There's an industry that is completely legislated itself almost out of existence. And why? Because it became so difficult for the consumer, the lenders, the banks, the end consumer, to be able to have a proper appraisal. And those of you in the finance industry understand why I say it that way, a proper appraisal. In fact, for kicks and giggles, who here has actually seen an appraisal come in at what a buyer is asking to pay right now? Anybody seen a single appraiser come in at asking price? Are they typically low? Okay, so you've seen a couple come in. Okay, I have not. Almost all the appraisals I'm seeing come in right now are undervalued because they're having a difficult time keeping up. Well, what has happened? The banks are now using technology because an industry is going away. They have created technology that will completely put them out of business based on current sales, based on what's happening within the industry. So these trends are driving us into the future. We have regulatory trends, we have consumer demands, and we have technology. So really think about what that means. The individual who grasps technology, innovates with their technology, is able to do more now than ever before. We've all heard the story about two business professionals. We're sitting at a restaurant. And these two ladies, we'll say one sitting there and one sitting there. And at the one table you saw this CEO, this lady, she was people running in and out, asking questions and leaving, to where the poor CEO barely had time to even eat her own food. At another table, the other lady, she sat there and had one assistant who every now and then would look, check her iPad, ask a few questions, and they had a wonderful dinner. Then you sit there and think, okay, which CEO is more powerful? Which CEO makes more money? The story continues to say, well, the one that had everybody there is actually the one who didn't ever learn how to delegate. And so they can't grow. They can't be as successful. The CEO over here learned how to delegate, learned how to use technology, and was able to do more and actually have more free time. Because at the end of the day, I don't know about the rest of you, I work so hard in order to have quality time with my family. I'm looking at ways in order to work smarter, not harder, by leveraging my own intellectual talent, by leveraging the intellectual talent of my employees, and leveraging artificial intelligence. Because by putting all of those together, we are then able to go through and make sure that we can do more business. So regulatory compliance. One of my friends owns a company. They do about $9 billion a year in production. 33 cents of every dollar they make goes towards compliance. 33 cents of every dollar. And that's being passed on to the consumer. Let's all just be really honest here and think about that. So the CFPB, who's here familiar with that? Anybody know what they control? Everything. And it's true. They actually control if you lend another person in this room $1. They have oversight over all lending within the United States. And so looking at that, there are fears over what does that look like, the CFPB, under the Biden administration. There's a high cost of compliance right now. Here in the United States, people are more litigious than ever. There are law firms who are wholly dedicated to seeing if you made an error in your closing documents. Was there a comma missed? Was there a period missed? Did you not hyphenate properly? And then that individual receives a home for free. Now, this may sound extreme, but the fact of the matter is, it's real life happening today, and it's happened yesterday and the day before. And that is what's going to continue to happen. And so lenders, they're tightening up. They're making sure they pay more for compliance, make sure they do more in order to protect themselves. Because at the end of the day, if more negative occurs, then they can't lend out as much money. And then, as we talked about, that legal department, right? Protecting the money. Consumer demands, we've talked about the Amazon effect. I don't know about the rest of you, but I remember when everybody said snail mail's dead. Are you guys familiar with what snail mail is? Right? You take a letter, you write it, you fold it, you put it in the mail, and people weren't opening it anymore because of this new craze called email. Everybody's sending emails. Well, what Amazon did is they actually created a situation where people were excited for packages again. I know me. You guys remember that old musical, The Music Man? Anybody remember that? Am I the only one who grew up with show tunes? And the Wells Fargo wagon coming down the street. Remember that? And everybody's all excited. That's me with the Amazon van that drives by. Passes like 10 times in front of my house a day. And I'm so excited. And when they pass by without dropping off a box for me, I go through withdrawals. Because why did they not send me something? Did I not order anything? And I know I'm not the only one who receives a package on the door, and you're like, did I actually order something? Who here has ever forgotten they actually ordered something on Amazon and it just showed up, right? You know exactly what I'm talking about, okay? People love receiving letters. Sometimes innovation does not mean always finding something new. Innovation means taking what's available and utilizing it and leveraging it to increase your profitability. To innovate, you have to make sure that consumers are happy and you're making more profits. That's innovation. So if I were to innovate right now in any industry, I would innovate myself into making sure I wrote letters to my consumers. And I would hand sign them. Because the Amazon effect makes people want something in the mailbox, want something delivered to their door. And then what do? They leverage it on social media, and they take a picture of it, and they show everybody. Because social media, the key word there is social. There's no longer an information overload. There's no longer a situation where everybody's worrying about whether or not there's too much going out. Because people, they are ravenous for information. It's almost as if there's a drought and they don't know when they're going to get the next piece of information to them. So make sure you stay out there and you're relevant. Because I know I'm not the only one in here who's ever had a family member or a friend say, hey, yeah, we just refinanced. And then I look at them. You do know what I do for a living. Oh, whoops. That's how I pay my bills. That's how I feed my family. But it's not their fault, it's mine. Because apparently I failed to stay relevant in their minds. Did I leverage social media? Am I out there sending them emails? Am I out there sending letters? Am I making sure I recognize, as silly as this sounds, birthdays? People love to be told happy birthday. Facebook has proven that. LinkedIn has proven that. Say happy birthday. Doesn't matter what language, take a video. And then the need for speed. Consumers now more than ever, as we talked about briefly, they want to go as fast as they want. They want to do as much as they want until they need you. And then they want you to answer the call, respond to the email, let them know that you actually are paying attention to them. Machine learning is a key to compliance. We need to make sure that we have the right software and AI in there. Anybody here use HomeBot in finance? It's a great, great tool. Look it up. Thinking like a tech firm is going to allow banks to meet the changing expectations of their customers. Banks no longer have the luxury of sitting in their dark lit room in the back as a board and deciding whether or not they're going to approve a loan for a car or a credit card. They have to leverage the AI necessary to make sure they understand, do they have the right income? Are they able to repay their loan? Do they have the credit score? Last year, we hit a record total $4.3 trillion in money lent out. It was a record. Times were great for lenders, right? When the whole world was falling down around them, they were making more money than ever before. And yet, based on that, you would assume almost every single person possible refinanced or purchased a home, right? Logically speaking, that's what the news told us. Inventory is at an all-time low. But, and this is a subject for another day, did you know that 78% of American households did not take advantage of a refinance last year? Let that sink in. So everybody who had record numbers last year, you only participated in 22%. There's still 78% out there. Doesn't mean they have a great note already. It doesn't mean they're not in a position where they don't want to, because oftentimes they just haven't seen the information at the right time, at the right place, from the right person. There's still 78% out there. In a recent study from Zillow, they actually found out as well that last year in November, the median price of a home was around $340,000 in the United States. Now, yes, I understand. San Francisco, it's over $1 million, okay? Park City, Utah, same thing. In fact, I read a great article today that Park City, Utah is the equivalent of Beverly Hills. Really interesting. In real estate, it's because of the three main rules, and you all know what it is. Location, location, location. And when there's lack of supply, there's an increase in demand. Well, now the average price of a home in the United States is $370,000. Okay? Zillow did a study and found that there were 75 million homeowners in the United States who could not afford the now median price. That's 60% of households. Like I said, that's a subject for another day. But think about that. If banks and lenders were to innovate and make it easier for consumers, they would be able to take advantage of this by thinking like a tech firm and stop thinking like a board of directors in a dark room in the back. Profits will go up, stockholders will be happy, and consumers will flourish. So together, we're going to make sure that we oversee, just like I've done when I was president of the National Association of Mortgage Brokers, meet with your legislators, because the rise of RegTech is not only a future, but it's a present requirement. AI chatbots, you are actually responsible for what they say. So you need to make sure that you put in the right information. Make sure your website has them. Because once again, consumers want information faster than waiting for you to call them back. They're willing to reach out to you, but if you don't answer, they're on the internet. They're going to find somebody else. Delivery is the arms race of today, and it will determine the winners and losers in the financial industry. The banks that employ the latest technology and they respond to these three drivers, those are the ones that will be able to keep up. Those that don't, they will be replaced just like Robinhood came in for E-Trade. Now, I assume people who are still using E-Trade are probably logging in through their AOL account, right? They're making sure. And then afterwards they go to their MySpace and see what their friends are doing, okay? Really think about that. Before Gmail, what was there? Before Facebook, what was there? China just announced they're sending its first manned mission to Mars. I am living in my childhood dreams right now. Except it was the USA who said they'd be sending men to Mars and women to Mars, you know. But that's the thing. Right now, more than ever, technology exists to make our lives easier, to make consumers' lives better. As president of SRE.com, what we're working on is we're actually creating a system to where consumers come in. If you go to rpa.sre.com, you can actually go in there as a lender or as a real estate agent, and that's our books, just like Amazon. And right now we're building all of our product, which is our vendors. Next year, we'll have over 3 million consumers coming in. And what will they do? Based on reviews and based on stars, they'll choose who they want to use. Because who better to trust than the same people that you know and they trust? Because there will always be a need for the human-assisted piece in e-commerce. I refuse to let myself and my industry cease to be relevant. That's why I'm so passionate about it. That's why I ask each and every single one of you to not only remain passionate, but find other people to mentor up. Talk with others. Help them understand why it's so important for what you do. Like I said before, if you're not taking pictures of you in front of the sign out there, if you're not taking pictures of you up here in front of this, whatever it may be, how do your friends and neighbors and family, your sphere of influence, understand what you're doing? Do they know that you're here to become better at what you do? Do you understand that you received an award, for those of you that did? A lot of people, oh, I don't want to brag. No, please do. Because you bragging to yourself is other people's ability to be able to rejoice and be excited for you and give the proverbial thumbs up on Facebook. Because that's how you need to stay relevant. Millennials, for years, everybody says, oh, they're going to live in their parents' basements forever. Right? Anybody read those reports? It's kind of funny. I still see some articles talking about it today. And yet millennials have become the highest purchaser of homes and real estate, beating out the baby boomers for the first time because they've now saved up enough money. They're able to get out there. They know what they want. So make sure that you stay relevant. Embrace those new technologies. Empower innovation inside the banking enterprise. Invest in the best reg tech and meet consumer demands to win in the future of banking. Because at the end of the day, it's all about winning. Because if you're not out there embracing it and taking care of it, others will overcome you. They'll buy you out, and then they will make the money that you expected to make. Thank you, everyone.